Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by an American original. Resonator and lap steel guitar master Jerry Douglas has made an immeasurable influence on country, bluegrass, Americana, and traditional music. As a leader, accompanist, or solo, Jerry Douglas has created some truly remarkable recordings and performances. A 14-time Grammy Award winner, respected musician, record producer, composer, and recording artist, Americana legend Willis Alan Ramsey said this of him: Jerry Douglas, for decades
Cool.
now, has taken the Dobro into whole new areas of discovery. Jerry has also recorded with a variety of artists: Paul Simon, Lyle Lovett, Garth Brooks, George Jones, Alison Krauss, James Taylor, Ray Charles, Tommy Emmanuel. In fact, you can hear Jerry Douglas's playing on more than 1,500 albums. Our topic of discussion on this episode includes the new record, Leftover Feelings from John Hyatt with the Jerry Douglas Band. It's out May 21st, 2021 on New West Records. So, Jerry Douglas, it's a great pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've been watching your show and I enjoy it immensely. Yeah, it's been great. I did a little homework and did a little viewing and it's a great show, man. Tons of people, great people that I would like to interview. Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun and a lot of work.
Sounds like you're going to have a good time. It sounds like me.
So, Leftover Feelings. Tell us, what do you think of this record?
I really like the record, and I didn't know what to expect. Still trying to get my camera working here, like a professional person would. I didn't know what to expect going into this record with Paul, with Mr. Oh, let me get myself together here. With Mr. Hyatt. He's just one of the greatest songwriters in the whole American song bag, wouldn't you say? I mean, I kept looking at this list of songs that he'd written and I went, he wrote that?
Yeah.
He wrote that. He wrote that. And it was, yeah, he wrote them. And we've known each other for quite a few years and recorded together the first time on Will the Circle Be Unbroken Volume 2 with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. It was the second big record. I wasn't around for the first one. But John Hyatt came in and sang a song with Roseanne Cash that he had written for the record. And they were coming through so fast. It was like a turnstile. We were sitting, I think it was the longest running gig I've ever had in the studio, sitting in one chair for 2 weeks, watching these stars after stars go by, Johnny Cash. I didn't know I'd recorded with John. My brain isn't working. Who is it? Never mind. There were a lot of people that came through on that record and that I didn't know I'd recorded with until after the record was over. And somebody said, "Hey, you recorded with so-and-so." And I went, "I did?" Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. It was pretty quick, but that was the first time I met John and we got on and have remained friends through the years, but we'd never collaborated on anything.
What was your first impression when you met John Hyatt?
I thought he has a very rough exterior and I don't know how, it took me a few minutes to converse with him to know where we were going to go with the conversation, if he had the time, all these kind of things. But then it just kind of clicked and we went right into some deep discussion, went down a rabbit hole of some kind. We were talking about Ry Cooder I remember we were sitting backstage at Newport at the folk festival at Newport, sitting on a picnic table backstage, just talking, as that's the only place that the people that are playing on stage can actually go and have any kind of conversation. There's just a ring of trailers back there, dressing rooms, and then the stage. So there's not a lot of conversation going on, but we found a place to do it. A very pleasant guy. Very pleasant.
Pleasant, you said?
Pleasant, yeah, very pleasant. And we've seen each other around town because we both live here in Nashville. And now he lives about a mile from me in my neighborhood. So I was just over there earlier today to do an interview with him. And it was one that we started yesterday and then ran into some digital glitches and had to end up finishing it today. And yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy and has so much history inside him, and he carries it around, and once in a while he'll write a song about something that happened that you would never have known about, and it has a huge impact on you. And he's just that kind of guy. He's quite an encyclopedia.
As I was mentioning at the top, there's so many things that you have done, from recording to performing, producing records. I mean, you could just go right down the line. Is there a part of creation of music that excites you the most?
Yes, and it's not what you think it would be. It's the part that makes me the most excited is mastering a record. And I'll tell you why. You can produce a record, and a record producer is the equivalent of a film director. So you're kind of casting characters. You're listening. I mean, John gives me a song, and we're using my band, so I know kind of how to cast it for who to play the solo in the song, who to play where, and what do you do with this lyric that he's just read, and what do you do with that? How do you paint that? Because essentially what we're doing is painting, framing him in all the time, and but keeping his substance on the stage, and then painting in all around that, and helping the listener really, really absorb what he's just said, and not to interrupt his vocal ever, interrupt what he's saying, but just sort of accent what he's saying sometimes. And there are musical ways to do that. And the guys that are in my band that I play with all the time, they're so good at that. And that's why I knew the band would work on this record. But yeah, it's my favorite part is you record the record, you mix the record, so you've got everything. It's sort of like a child, it's like it's nothing. It's this blob of notes. And then as you mix it, it starts to come alive and starts to, have dynamics, and things start to move. And then you mix it and it's all in one place. And then you take it to mastering. And this is a step in record making that a lot of people skip nowadays. And I can't understand for the life of me why they would do that. But it sonically enhances the record. You can find things in mastering that you didn't hear when you were mixing the record. Somebody's going to hear it later because you hear it so much while you're making the record. You can kind of become numb to some of these things, and you get to mastering and you've got the full picture in front of you. And when you leave mastering, it's finished, it's up, it's walking, it's a live human being at that point. And to me, that's it, then that's it. That's your snapshot of hundreds of hours of work. And at that point, you better be pleased by it or start over. But that's my favorite part about making records, and just the collaboration, just the idea of collaborating, taking another person's words or another person's thoughts and trying to that goes through your conduit into your instrument, which is actually the conduit of your mind, of what your thoughts and everything are then put into the instrument and then out into the ether. And it's a very interesting experiment. Every record is an experiment.
Well, this is just coming from my perspective as a listener, and I haven't heard. I've only heard the tracks that are currently commercially available. But there are a lot of times when I've been listening to these songs that it does feel like a duet to me, of his vocal and your instrumentation. You said that you always wanted to put John's vocals on the stage, but it seems like more of a duet than most records that I've heard.
Well, yeah. When I first heard the record back after we finished it, I said, too much Dobro on this record, but it is kind of a conversation between John and I. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it doesn't help my case much that Dobro is actually the first thing you hear on the record. And there's a lot of Dobro on the record, and he wanted it that way, and that's what I play, and that's how I speak. After I've kind of like talked to everybody else, and we've talked through an arrangement of, and that's always just a loose arrangement. There's never any verbatim. You have to play it this way. I really support anything that these other guys, that are in the band, what they play. I'm on the team, and they do a wonderful job. And yeah, but I guess it is kind of a conversation. It's a collaboration. It was meant to be a collaboration between he and I brought my band in as support for both of us, I suppose. And it's been serendipitous in a lot of ways, that we both ended up in the same, under the same umbrella of management. And our managers are actually the guys that got this idea together for us to do the record. And I'm thankful to them for doing it. I've known John for a long time, and we've been friends, but neither of us ever thought we would be making a record together. We float in different orbits, but once in a while it'll come back to something like, I'm a huge fan of Sonny Landreth. I'm a huge fan of Ry Cooder, and somehow John's musical life and his songs and the things he's recorded have always been kind of driven by some kind of slide guitar. And I don't think it's an accident that I was the next in line. It's just sort of part of his the way he thinks, the way he writes, it's just perfect for swampiness, Yeah. So I think that was one of the things that the managers saw that, and and talked to us about it. They asked John about it, and John said, "I never thought about it, but yeah, And I just instantly said yes. I'd love to do this, and I feel like I'm ready to produce a record like this. So that was then we stepped in and started throwing songs back and forth, and he sent me a whole lot of songs, and we just sort of tried to pick the right songs that would one could come after the other one, or could be complete juxtaposition, and just a shocker or a palate cleanser, or, that's how you think of these songs in an order, is to tell a story. These days when people are streaming so much, live and downloading, it's sort of takes it out of context. They'll like one song more than the rest, and they'll grab that song and maybe come back and grab another song later. So for us to build this steady narrative of a record, it almost doesn't matter anymore, unless it's people who just put on a record, sit down and listen to the whole thing. And that's what we made the record for. That's how we made the record.
Well, from what I've heard, it's superb, sir.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. I hope a lot of other people do.
Well, what do you think of John Hiatt, the singer? What do you think of him as a vocalist?
John has gone through periods in his career when he was just like the singer, spot on. And then his voice changed throughout his career, became a little more gruff. And it's sort of like, if you were to take Tom Waits and say, you can't have that rasp anymore, you have to sing exactly in tune every note, or we're going to tune you to make you in tune, it wouldn't sound like Tom Waits. And it's the same with Willie Nelson or John. John is a character. His voice has so much character in it. It's not one of these voices like I've worked with Alison Krauss for so long, that's so perfectly on, and laser pitch and sharp, and focused. His voice is like, it's like there's this tornado going on, and right inside it is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful voice. And you have to get through the tornado to hear that, but it's there all the time. And then you sharpen your focus and you hear it, and it's just, I think without the gruffness and without the imperfectness of it, it wouldn't have nearly the effect. Other people have had good luck singing his songs too, but he's had the best luck of singing. And that just goes to prove that his voice is a commodity. It's a real thing. It's a very salable thing, and that's because people feel an honesty coming from it.
Well, speaking of the honesty, at least from my ears, there's a kind of tenderness, and I don't know if that's your instrumentation or what, but it's definitely John Hiatt singing. But this seems like a very different John Hiatt record to me.
It's different in that he's playing with a practiced band. These guys have played with me for 5 or 6 years now, and are so intuitive, and they know what I'm going to do. I know what they're going to do, and John, throwing John into the middle of that, it's like, it's like he's not playing with the goners, he's playing with us. So we're sort of setting up we're building the scenery behind the words. So it may seem, I think there are songs on this record that we pulled off that maybe the other bands couldn't have. There's some deep soul searching on this record. He's always done that. He's always written his life, sung his. this record that are totally personal, and we treated him that way. We treated him with the utmost respect, and then then there'd come up a song like there's this little song called Lil Goodnight on there, and it's about his wife and him thinking that parenthood was going to be a breeze, and then they have this baby who won't go to sleep. A colicky baby. If anybody's had a colicky baby, this song is about that. If you don't get some sleep, we're not going to be able to take it. And it just goes all over the place, and we do too. We go ballistic too. It explodes and it comes back together, at the right times. But the record goes to a few different places, but I feel pretty good about how we prepared each of the songs for him to sing to.
Is it possible to pick the real highlight in terms of the tracks?
Whoa. Well, I'll have about 4 of them that I just can't get out of my head. But there's one song called I'm in Asheville, as in North Carolina. But I asked him to send me the lyrics for the songs, and he sent me these lyrics, and then I got to this song called Leftover Feelings, and I said, well, where'd this come from? I don't know. I don't recognize this title. And as I read down through the lyrics, the song was, we had been calling it I'm in Asheville, and he didn't tell us any different. And then there's the line of leftover feelings is mentioned, is one of the lines in the lyrics. It's just mentioned in the lyrics. And I said, this song should be called I'm in Asheville, and we should title the record Leftover Feelings. And he went, great idea. Well, once John gets an idea, or somebody makes a suggestion that he likes, he locks onto it really fast. He doesn't go away to think about it for any length of time. If he likes it, that's it. That's it. It's in stone.
Hey, Jerry, about how much time do we have?
I don't know. We have as much time as you need right now.
Okay, good. Just making sure. I don't want to be a bad guy and take it into somebody else's time.
No, we're not running into anything else right now, so don't worry.
Well, Jerry, who would you say has taught you the most about record producing?
Oh, wow. There are about 4 guys. Number 1 on that list would be Brian Ahern. Brian Ahern was married to Emmylou Harris when they made Luxury Liner and some of the earlier Emmylou Harris records, and was the first. I went in to do an overdub, just a simple overdub for Emmy, and I was pretty young, and we did a take, we did a run through, and Brian said, most of that was good. Most of that's it. That's kind of it. The only thing I would tell you is when she's singing, don't play in her register, because it has a canceling out effect. It's distracting. And I took those words to the bank, and that's been part of my recording Bible from then on. And he had so many great ideas, and he trained so many people to make records. Ricky Skaggs, Rodney Crowell, Emery Gordy, just tons and tons of people who went through Emmy's camp or through Brian's, who were on Brian's at the edge of his world at any time. And he's very, you don't hear about him that much anymore. I mean, he came to Nashville, and he didn't really do it. He didn't do a lot of records. We did one George Jones record out at Bradley's Barn outside of town, and it was one of these records. It was just like Owen Bradley would have done it. Everybody was there at the same time. All the parts happened. It was all synchronicity. And the only thing is they were recording with in this format, ADAT format. And at that point, they didn't have a way to lock up the machines of 8 tracks each. So they had to have like 4 guys standing there, and the main engineer would count down. Hit record at the same time, and you just had to hope that was going to play back. You were going to be able to lock them up to play back. But that was Chuck Ainley. Good man, great engineer. But Chuck is a great engineer. There's a guy, let's see, Tony Brown, who did tons and tons of country records here in town, taught me a lot. Garth Fundis, who produced Don Williams and Keith Whitley and Trish Yearwood and a lot of people like that. Alan Reynolds, who produced Garth Brooks and tons and tons of other country artists. You know, for about 15 years, I did just one session after another until I was kind of at burnout stage, and then started working with Alison Krauss. Pretty much saved my musical life from wondering if I had just played the same solo 2 days ago, things like that. But Kyle Lenning is one of the guys I've learned the most from, just watching him work with people in the studio. And what I've learned from all of these guys is there is quite a bit of psychology that goes along with knowing how these machines work, but just getting a great performance from someone is all in the direction that you give them and how you give them that direction, and all of those guys that I've named have been PhDs in that. They could get something out of you didn't know was there, just by giving you an idea or a mental picture or really honing in onto things. You should have to have a psychology degree to be a music producer, a record producer, because it does have a lot in. And T-Bone Burnett's the same way. T-Bone Burnett knows who to hire. He knows the musicians to hire, and he gets them in the room, gives them some direction, and then lets them go. And because he's hired these people for this specific record, and he knows he knows kind of what they're going to bring to the table. And his wife, Sam Phillips, a long time ago said that T-Bone was a great producer. He was like Hugh Hefner. She said he throws a good party and keeps all the drinks full. And I thought that's perfect. He does that. He points you in the right direction. If you start to veer, he'll bring you back in. But he's not a hands-on, like, no, play this series of notes or anything like that. None of these great producers do that. They know when they hire you, they know what they're going to get. And it seldom ever goes wrong, that kind of production.
Well, I feel like I can go into this topic because there is a John Hyatt connection here.
Good.
I think, well, and I should add, for anybody who's checking this out, Bob Dylan recorded one of John Hyatt's songs. And the reason I mentioned Bob Dylan, my absolute favorite interpretation of a Bob Dylan song, period, is Tim O'Brien, Farewell, Angelina. And you played on that track.
I did.
And it's golly, I can never get tired of hearing that. And again, the first thing you hear is the instrument. Can you recall making that particular record?
Yeah, he made a record called Red on Blonde.
Yeah.
Because Tim O'Brien has red hair, and he couldn't call it Blonde on Blonde, so he called it Red on Blonde, and he did all Bob Dylan songs. We also did Everything Is Broken on there, and just Tombstone Blues, a whole bunch of really great songs. But that one, Farewell Angelina, was one of the softer songs on the record, one of the more plaintive songs, and the more like Stephen Hard Times Come No More,
Stephen Foster.
Stephen Foster kind of a reading that he gave it. And Tim's just one of these natural singers. It just falls out of him, and it's perfect and it's beautiful, and his phrasing is he's different than anyone else. You know that it's Tim O'Brien when you hear it, and he's like that. He's like Johnny Cash, or one of these people where the sound of his voice, I mean, it's so smooth, and it sounds so easy for him to do, and I think it is. He's just a songbird, and he started to sing the song, and I put the dobro down, and I think I played a Weisenborn guitar on that, which was originally a Hawaiian instrument made out of koa wood from Hawaii, but was hollow all the way. The neck was still a chamber all the way to the headstock where the nut is, up there at the headstock where the tuners are. The guitar is hollow all that way, and it's like an eggshell. It's very light and it's very delicate, but it produces the most beautiful tone as long as you don't play it hard. If you start to play it hard, then you're defeating the guitar and the purpose, and everything. So usually I would play it without picks, and I think I played Angelina on that because it was hitting me, in the heart, everything he was singing, and the idea that Bob Dylan wrote this song, boy, was he hurting. And it just was so transparent. It's a great song, and I think Tim did a wonderful job. That whole album, if you want to hear somebody do Dylan songs a different way, but you still get the essence of Dylan, Red on Blonde by Tim O'Brien that's your ticket.
Oh yeah, hats off.
Yeah, totally.
Well, going back to Leftover Feelings, for anybody who listens to that album, is there something in particular you want the listener to get from that experience?
Well, we try as musicians in the studio, because we have no audience, right? So we're playing to a future audience, and we're trying to create one piece of work, and that one piece of work can be like one song, but it can be heard so many different ways by so many different people, because people are all different. But I would like all of them to walk away with, after hearing this record or any of these songs, that we did connect the lyrics and the music, and that they're all one piece. They're like inseparable. And it's like casting a movie, it's like, okay, what instruments do we use on this song to give this song the best treatment? Well, maybe we won't have electric guitar on this. Maybe we'll have two acoustic guitars, because John's going to play an acoustic. So Mike Seal, the electric guitar player, he would go to an acoustic guitar player as well. So it brings down, softens things. And, you build a nice bed for things to happen on. things to jump in and out of, jump up and down, and only at the proper times. And you just, I would want people to think that we took the utmost care with some very valuable material that we were given to work with, and that would be John Hyatt songs, because I think they're just amazing. Each one of them, I still learn something every time I listen to those songs, and I've heard them more than anybody at this point, because going through the recording and mixing process and everything, you hear it thousands of times, and I try to turn over every rock and find everything that could possibly go wrong, and anything that sounds like it's leading to some kind of collision. We'll try to either make the collision happen or go around it. You know, I mean, I talk in really broad terms about these kind of things, because that's the way I visualize them. And music, it's not just words. It's sometimes a song can be known for its what we call a hook line, which is a recurring instrumental, musical line that will line the song, bring the song back into view, back into focus. And a lot of the times people will know as soon as you kick off a song, as soon as you play the intro, they know what song it is, and they start to go nuts. If they don't do that, you haven't done your job. You should set it up. That's what we try to do. Is set it up and make it all memorable, not just the lyrics, not just the story, but the whole piece. Piece.
Well, on that note, a track like The Lilacs of Ohio, which the first time that appeared was on the very underrated album, I think, an excellent John Hyatt record, The Tiki Bar is Open.
Yeah.
Did you go back and listen to that and try to maybe either take the good parts from that, or did you try to go drastically away from that to be different? How'd you do that?
I heard the song once or twice. I listened to it once or twice, and I knew about it coming out on the previous record. And I thought, well, this is going to be different anyway, just because of what we have here. Who's in this room? It's going to be different. And I didn't try to make it drastically different. I just didn't take a lot of information from the other cut. I tried to make it our own. I tried to make it fresh. And I think we did. You hear the two side by side. One is a 4-piece rock band, and the other one is a really strong string band. So it takes it to a different place. And the song is so great anyway. The line, all the lilacs in Ohio. So I'm from Ohio, and I went, John, I don't know where you're getting all these lilacs from Ohio. I don't remember a lot of lilacs in Ohio, but I guess there were. But it came from a movie called Lost Weekend with Ray Milland. And he's talking to the bartender, who he spends most of his time with at this hotel while he's waiting for his girlfriend to come down, his love to come down. And she can't come down to meet him in this one time. But she sends an envelope down with a little note inside, and Ray Milland says he opened the envelope, and he said and it smelled like all the lilacs from Ohio. He just loved her so much, he just everything about it, even her writing. So check it out.
Absolutely. Well, my last question: what is the best thing about being Jerry Douglas?
Oh my. Well, I play an instrument, a Dobro guitar, that isn't a household name. So for years and years, I had to explain it, what it was. And I explained, yeah, it's a guitar, but it's a slide guitar, but it's not a slide guitar that you play like a regular guitar. You put it on your lap, you play it, and it was a long explanation. And then somebody would say, well, who invented it? And well, these Czechoslovakian brothers, came to California and liked Hawaiian music, but it wasn't loud enough because they came from an oompa world. And it was all that. So I was among the first ones, I guess, to players of the Dobro after Bashful Brother Oswald with Roy Acuff on the Grand Ole Opry, and then Josh Graves, who was my main source of information and inspiration, who played with Flatt and Scruggs. And Josh Graves had to be able to play fiddle tunes. He had to be able to play fast to keep up with Earl Scruggs, who was just flying. And so he incorporated a 3-fingered roll that enabled him to, with the use of open strings and the slide that we play with, to be able to play fiddle tunes and instrumentals and things like that. Well, that was totally brand new in the Dobro world when he started doing that. And I've tried to further that. And the Jerry Douglas part of it is I'm sort of the guinea pig of all of these new things that you can try on Dobros, but my style of playing, I tried to take what Josh Graves gave me, and at an early age, I had a cousin move into the house looking for work because we lived up north and he came from the south, just like my family did, looking for work. He came in, and it was just when the Beatles broke, and there were the first time I heard the Byrds or the Rolling Stones or anything like this. My family music was bluegrass music or country music, and I didn't hear all these other things that were on FM radio or AM radio or whatever he was listening to or anybody was listening to. There were so many things I heard. Don't Walk Away, Renee, all Left Bank, all of these things. And I grew up close to Cleveland, so there were great rock stations out of Cleveland. So I took all these rock influences, a lot of Clapton, and merged them with my bluegrass heroes, what I'd learned from Josh Graves playing the Dobro, and tried to create some kind of synergy out of that. And if there's such a thing as Jerry Douglas, that's what I am. I'm a very musical being, and I've spent my whole life playing on the road, playing for people, or recording. Music has been it. Music is I fly fish, and I'm a terrible golfer, but I've also been surrounded by some amazing musicians like Tony Rice and Sam Bush and Bela Fleck and Mark O'Connor and Brian, they keep coming. The newer guys keep coming and playing with us. And I kind of fell into this Renaissance period where there were those guys that I just mentioned. We all kind of happened on the scene at the same time and brought all of our outside influences to bluegrass music and to acoustic music, and made a name for ourselves that way because we were doing something no one had ever heard. And it wasn't because we were trying to keep it to ourselves. It was just not a popular music. It wasn't listened to like it is now. I mean, there's so many people out there that have gone from bluegrass music to, the Foo Fighters, or to, I've met every great band I know. There's somebody in there we're going, man, bluegrass music was where I cut my teeth. And that's how I got here, because it's such a physical music, and it's a band music, it's a all for one kind of a situation. It's not like I'm out here on stage, you got to play with me. It's the other way around. You listen to what's going on around you and play to that with bluegrass music. And whatever this is you call what we play nowadays, it's just some a branch off of bluegrass. But all of us that I've named also we can all play those bluegrass solos that we love so much. We can play those verbatim. With those never leave you, and you're constantly recalling parts of that in any kind of situation you're in, whether it's classical or rock and roll or whatever. So, I'm bluegrass at heart, but I love every kind of music, and have been so inspired by so many of my friends and people that I've met through the years, who've introduced me to just different sounds. Like the first time I heard Weather Report or Chick Corea, I just soaked that up, and that became part of my phrasing, or it crept into me somehow that way. But being Jerry Douglas, I don't know what to do with that. It's just, I just am who I am, and happened when I did.
Well, anybody out there, you can go to jerrydouglas.com. You can also go to johnhyatt.com, and Leftover Feelings. It's out May 21st. That's tomorrow. We're recording this on the 20th. And get it. You can get it on download. If you really want to be kind to yourself, get a CD or a vinyl record and enjoy. And Jerry Douglas, I hope that we have a chance to speak again someday. It's been a real
I'd love
honor.
to. I would love to. I'm honored. Thank you for having me on. It's real nice to see you, Paul.
Hey, good to see you. Until next time.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.